Quark tastes some of Morn's raw slug liver. Keiko's favorite chocolates are Tellurian mint truffles, and Rom has puree of beetle every morning until today. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today, that was all food trivioids, by the way. Today, we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 5, Episode 5, The Assignment, story by David R. Long and Robert Lederman, teleplay by David Weddle and Bradley Thompson, directed by Alan Croker. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. How you doing, Cirroc?
Doing good. These names, when I saw them in the opening credits, I was saying to myself, well, I recognize that David Weddle, Bradley Thompson, I think from the episode prior to this. Was it just before this episode or a couple episodes before this one?
I had to look them up, and I know because I was like, I recognize those names. Apparently, they are story editors on like 40 of the episodes. So every once in a while, they also get like a story by or written by, but they had 40 episodes where they were a story editor or executive story editor, kind of flip-flopping.
Or doing the teleplay. This one, they have teleplay, which I guess is
script, yeah.
Scripting it. So, but yeah, I recognize those names. Don't know the face on the names, not like our usual staff writers and the producers on our show, but I noticed that their name came back up, and then the David Long and Robert Lederman, another set of names where I was like trying to think if I had heard them before or recognized them. And even the director, Alan Croker, unless I'm missing something, and I got to look him up right now because another name that just didn't ring to a memory, But I know I'm in this episode, so I must have worked with him.
Well, I'll tell you, with Bradley Thompson, David Weddle, apparently they're partners, like writing partners or something, because I did look them up, and they have like the same credits, meaning they're always working together. Most notably on Battlestar Galactica's reboot from 2004 to 2008, and more recently, Falling Skies with our good friend Mr. Doug Jones in there. The Strain, I think Doug Jones is in that too, actually. And For All Mankind, which is the new Apple series. I believe it's on Apple. That's really big time. Ronald D. Moore, I believe, does that one. Is it Ronald D. Moore? Let me check just to be 100% sure. But I believe it. Yeah, Ronald D. Moore. So
okay, now I'm looking at Alan's picture, and I do remember working with him. If you look him up, he is actually a Canadian-born. Really chill guy. That's what I remember about him, how laid back and chill he was. He was like a smooth guy, one of those most interesting man in the world type of people that you're not
nice.
You're not really sure about, how crazy a lifestyle he might have lived. Really cool guy. I had good memories of working with Alan. So let me take that back. I do remember him now that I see his face, and he was a cool guy.
And looking him up, he's done 39 Star Trek episodes directing, 13 Deep Space Nine, 13 Voyager, and 13 Enterprise. So living it up, this guy.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
13 is his number, huh?
It must be.
Yeah. So as soon as I saw him, I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember him," because he did obviously, like you said, 13 episodes. He was there quite frequently, and got along well with the cast and crew, obviously, because they keep bringing him back. I can see here it says that he also did What You Leave Behind, so that's another Tears of the Prophet. So yes,
nice. So that all being said, is this the first and only Keiko-centric episode we've seen? I believe it is.
Yeah. This is the only one that I can remember.
Right.
And I wanted to say that I'm glad that she got a chance to showcase her ability, because normally she's very brief. She's either on her way somewhere or just coming back from somewhere, and she gets like a scene or two really quickly. usually sometimes with Molly, so she doesn't even get the chance to do her own individual stuff. She's like more in the motherly capacity. But in this one, she actually gets some more identity to, I mean, more room to do her acting and showcase her skills.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. Actually, we might as well. But I was actually very impressed with her acting, not because we would ever think that she couldn't pull off whatever she needs to in any kind of script, but because this was a very different kind of character. So I was interested, and I remembered being impressed with her way back in the day, because it's a completely different character that she played. And you know, we've said this before, you know, even great actors, it's still always a gamble if you write something completely different for them, because we're assuming that they can also portray this kind of character. They didn't audition for this kind of character. They auditioned for this. So it's always kind of a gamble, and they always seem to knock it out of the park. And Rosalind Chow, shout out to her, because she pulled it off. She played Sinister very well. I thought I was very pleased with how sinister and how calm and collected and sociopathic in a way that she played. It was very convincing.
Yeah. What was the name of that? Was it The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, or one of those movies that was about a sinister woman that was getting close to this man that was not her husband? And it was, I forgot I think it was Sharon Stone, if I'm not mistaken. It was one of her movies, but either way, she had this very real clever way of subtly performing this in a way that I thought was totally believable. She was still herself, but she was just off enough where you would believe that she has this kind of entity or whatever it is inside of her, making these things. At first, I was thinking what O'Brien was thinking, which is, oh, okay, we're playing that game. You know?
I know. That was so good. That was so good. Where she's like, "I'm not Keiko." He's like, "Ooh, who are you?"
Ooh, yeah, yeah. And I loved it. I was like, "Oh, that's it." And then it caused a side thought of mine, like, "Oh, that's a really cool game to play." You know, like to pretend to pretend this kind of thing is happening to you. Yeah. So I actually had to pause it and just digest that level of fantasy that can be had between two people in a relationship.
Yeah,
I thought that was
so funny.
clever.
Where he's like, "Oh, cool, all right, who am I dealing with today?"
Oh, yeah. Are you under arrest or something? Do I have to get out in handcuffs? You know. So I liked the way they started with that, and then I was almost still thinking she was playing, right? Up until even when she started doing the violent shakes and fell to the floor.
Oh, really? You still thought that was all part of it?
Yeah. Even I was still on the hook. And I was still like, oh wow, you're really taking
committed.
You're really committed to this. So I thought she was going to wake up and say "got you" or one of those type of like moves. But when she had the bloody nose is when I realized it was the bloody nose, and I think that was something they may have added for effect because of that same hesitation that I had, which is this a joke or is this serious? Because how else can you prove it, right? Prove that somebody else is inside of you telling you what to say and do. You just sound like you're having a bad attitude, and you might want to leave me. You found some guy when you were out doing your last trip, and this is your way of expressing it. You know, that would be the first instinct in the relationship, right? Thinking, hey, maybe something's going on. Are you cheating on me or something? Or is there something you're not telling me? Maybe you're terminally ill, and this is how you would lash out or mask some other kind of thing, secret. So it would be hard to buy it right away unless you had that nosebleed scene, which is very well placed, in my opinion, to just erase the doubt. Okay, she has physical evidence of the trauma.
Right, that's a good point. And also, speaking of physical evidence, we forgot to mention what a cool shirt you're wearing today, Cirroc. Check it out, everybody.
Oh yeah.
It looks like it could be superhero, could be Wolverine. It's some Abyssinian kiosk, right? Whew.
Yeah, it is. It actually reminds me of Flash Gordon. You remember the Flash
absolutely.
character? Kind of has that Flash look to it. Certainly
super
some
sharp.
Marvel.
So everybody at home right now, they're yelling because they're like, "Isn't that DC, the Flash?" But Flash Gordon, I don't know what he was. He wasn't DC or Marvel.
It might be. It might have been DC. Flash was DC. Yeah.
But everybody at home, get yourself this awesome shirt. Cirroc's sister creates these on her website, Abyssinian Kiosk. You can find the link in the description box below. All kinds of really cool stuff. Cirroc and I are wearing her shirts all the time because they're pretty badass. So definitely check that out. Description box below. And we also want to let's give a shout out, shall we? We haven't done a shout out in a while. Our good buddy, Mr. Homer Frizzell, has been with us since day one. And we've got a lot of really cool people that have been with us since the very beginning. Homer, I think he was from like day -1, right? I mean, he's been around since the very beginning. We love the guy.
And and one of the coolest guys you could ever meet. I mean, what a class act and a great representation for what we're doing here on the show. And I love the time that we've spent together, the conversations that we've had. And he's just such a classy guy and really amazing man. So yeah, shout out to Homer Frizzell.
First thing we noticed when we met him, we said, this guy sounds like a baseball player from the 20s, right?
Right.
The 1920s. I guess we're in the 20s again, but you know.
We're back in the 20s.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got one of those names, but he's also got one of those personalities that's just charming and lovable and the kind of person you want to hang around and, you know, have more conversations with. So actually looking forward to seeing our Seventh Rule family in person when we start meeting back up at conventions and seeing each other in person, because I think we have such a good family and such a strong connection. For me, you guys have been an extended family for me, and it's meant a lot to me to have these kinds of conversations and this dialogue with you guys over the years. So
can you believe it's been almost 2
years? Yeah.
And we are going to go nuts at Star Trek Las Vegas, right? And we hope to see a lot of you guys there because it's going to be awesome.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Just a couple months. We'll do it.
Yeah, we'll be there.
All right.
How cute was Molly in this episode? She's like, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell her.
Not me. Don't put this on me.
Yeah, her acting chops, they're definitely giving her more. They also gave her, I think, the first lines of this level to where she was talking, you know, when Keiko called him at work, and that was a really creepy scene. And she was talking, she was just like, "Oh yeah, mommy says it. Ow, mommy, not so hard. That hurts." I was like, wow, that's an added layer to the acting. It's not just saying and delivering the lines, but then also, you know, making up some kind of reaction and talking to mom. I was like, another little notch up for our good friend Hana Hate as a child.
Yeah, another notch up. She got more responsibility. And you know what? It's funny because we just came off of the episode before this, Northern Battle to the Strong, where they decided to take the chance and extend a storyline on Jake and take a chance with these other guest stars they brought in and really go in a small offshoot of building the Deep Space Nine storyline. And I'm thankful for the opportunity. But right on the heels of that, they again extend and find another character like Keiko to expand on and bring another storyline that's an offshoot of the main overall storyline that's happening. So kudos to the writers for making sure that they develop these kinds of characters and really make us feel the bond and family of what it's like growing up on the space station or being on the space station together and dealing with these kinds of personal issues and extending out and building relationships between Jake and Bashir, or taking Keiko's character and expanding on it and making sure that they do their diligence to make her a part of what's happening here on the show. So I think that's really indicative of good writing, because it brings a level of fullness and completion to a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
And also it means that they have a lot of faith in the actors that are on this show. It means that they have faith in myself and what I was doing. They have faith in Rosalind Chow, who delivered it to me tremendously. Also, Carla Meany did an exceptional job in this episode with some of the facial expressions he was making, trying to withhold the secret that he was having, having been compromised. So, and also Max Kredenchik, who I thought was really good at playing this dumb, smart person. And I think that's one of the things he doesn't get enough credit for. He's always perceived to be dumb, and he plays dumb, but he's really very smart.
Right.
And that dumb persona that he kind of gives off is a way for, it's a kind of a disarming thing. It's a smart thing for him to do, because he's able to gauge where he wants to respond and how he wants to respond. So I think he's showed himself to also have layers in his performance and his understanding of Rom and what Rom's bringing to the table. So all around, I was intrigued by this episode. And I want to say to Rosalind Chow, who is one of a handful of Asian actresses that I can think of, especially during that time in the 90s.
She's working a lot now, yeah.
Yeah. And even now, fast forward, 20, 30 years later, it's still not that many as there should be, compared to how many are in society, right? So she has been a groundbreaking woman in that respect for all of these years, and she should have her props for that, because I think she has done a tremendous job of keeping it classy and delivering high quality performances.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's a testament to her that, 25 years later, she's still working. She's working, on big movies, big shows. She's still actively working and keeping super busy. She's out right now in Atlanta shooting. So she's in high demand, and it's well deserved, obviously. And to your other point, everybody, I think most people agree that that's what Deep Space Nine did better than any other show, was to expand that universe, to find great actors and great characters outside of the main 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, and to really build that universe much, much bigger and much more broadly. And yeah, Keiko, getting her first real major, episode is proof of that. Even Molly is expanding her lines and her role, and like you said, Rom is expanding his. It's just really cool all around to see the universe expanding, the world of Deep Space Nine expanding in this yet again an O'Brien must suffer episode, right?
Yeah, O'Brien suffers in this one, which is he's fantastic at. So it's like it's natural for him to be, the grumpy Smurf. But but I just I like the way this episode was. They kept the intrigue for me in this episode. I believe one of the things that was really successful from a writing standpoint was withholding what Keiko was trying to do for so long, because that kept me intrigued as well. That was directly tied to who she is and what her purpose was. And by withholding that, I thought that's great, because I'm thinking, what is she? Maybe it's a harmless thing that she's getting him to do. Maybe she just wants this entity wants to just send a message across the universe to one of its ancestors. I don't know, but maybe it's harmless, or maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it doesn't have severe consequences. But as they start to reveal what the outcome was, then it started to slowly unravel what the story was truly about. So I thought that was a good idea as well, because I was constantly on the edge of the episode, like what's when he completed the task and she said that was just a test to make sure he trust you. And then I was like, oh, this is really about to go somewhere. This is a whole nother level to this, and I like that.
Yeah, I also really liked it when there was a lot of subtext in this, of course. And one of the scenes was when, you as Jake say, oh man, I really would love to meet a Pah-Wraith someday. And she goes, oh, you never know. You may just get your chance, which was great, for the audience, because we know that you're talking to one right now.
Right. The moment when O'Brien is really considering talking to Sisko about, like he's looking for Sisko. Where's Captain Sisko? And we know as the audience that he's about to confide in Sisko and kind of see if he can help him solve this difficult problem that he's trying to figure out on his own. I like that moment because it actually convinced me that there was a trust in Sisko to be able to figure out the way to solve this problem, right? O'Brien believed that Sisko would come to the rescue or be able to figure out this difficult problem. Mm-hmm. He had confidence in his captain to be able to help him in this issue, and I like the fact that he had that kind of a confidence in his captain, that he didn't just automatically say, I can do it on my own, but he actually thought, you know what, this is too much for me. I need to get help,
And that Keiko knew that he was going to do that. And she's like, oh, really? So you're going to go see your buddies, huh? Well, let's do something about that. Did that jump out? I mean, I did rewind it to check out the stunts of it to kind of see how they did the whole Keiko, falling over, and they just kind of did quick little cuts, and it wasn't until I rewound it and watched it a second time that I noticed that. So what that means is that they did it well to where my brain accepted it as Keiko's falling over the railing, when really all it was, if you looked at it when you're actually paying attention to it, she just kind of partially leans. Then it shows one quick clip of a body going like that, and then it shows her on the ground. Or, it was very quick cuts. But, as a filmmaker, you're always wondering, like, is this going to work? Like, we're not showing much. Will people fill in the blanks? And this one, we did fill in the blanks, at least for me, worked perfectly. It wasn't until I rewound it to check it again that I saw, it was just a couple quick little cuts, and that's it.
Yeah. See, I didn't go back and rewind it. I was sold on the fall. Mm-hmm. In my mind, I did kind of think to myself, okay, so the first half of the filming was on a mat where the double fell over and landed on a mat, and then they cut to her on the floor. Obviously, that's something they're going to do anytime. She's not going to really jump off of the rail. So that thought crossed my mind for a second. Okay, the person jumped off the rail and did a flip, because it was a kind of unusual fall where you do head first over, and you would kind of fall head first and then land on your back, like doing a flip. Yeah. And that's something that a stunt person is capable of doing. It's not a normal way to fall over the rail. Exactly. Right. If you're falling
over rails, so I don't.
Well, take it from me, a guy who's fell over plenty of rails. It's an awkward way to fall over a rail. But it just was a quick thought. It wasn't anything. I mean, I know that they have to patch that together to sell the audience. For me, more, I was focused on watching her cynical kind of ways that she would cut in and out of scenes. For example, when they had the party scene, and she was able to go into, hey, Sisko, hey, Dax, hey, how are you? and then cut right into him like, you know, you need to get to work and do this, right?
Yeah, get your ass
And
back out there.
Yeah, yeah. So I love the way she was able to go in and out of being believable as Keiko to also being believable as not Keiko. That to me was the beauty in her performance.
Well, let's take our quick break on that. When we get back to, I'd like to mention that there were 3 NAMs. I don't know if everybody knows where the NAMs are, but that's always fun for us. There was a little bit of our Trekkian nomenclature terms or whatever we want to call it. There are a few of those. And we'll do the trivioids as soon as we get back on the other side.
And I have a nitpick too. So when we get on the other side, I'm
doggy. Oh man, this is gonna be you guys gonna be pissed that you have to wait for a half-second break right now. We'll be right back on the 7th rule. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the 7th rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
There's a new thing with our recording where as soon as we hit record, there's a lady's voice that says recording in progress, like we're on the Enterprise or on Deep Space Nine. It's very distracting, but it's also kind of fun. So here are the trivioids very quickly. Quark tastes some of Morn's raw slug liver. Rom has puree of beetle every morning until today. Rom tries Chief O'Brien's breakfast of choice. Bashir watered Keiko's Idrin hybrids and rotted their roots. Chief O'Brien's birthday is today. Keiko's favorite chocolates are Tellurian mint truffles. Caparol is a very time-consuming dish. Sisko reminded us of that, if I remember correctly. Jake tells O'Brien to make a wish. Molly wears her new purple shoes. This is an O'Brien must suffer episode. And Ferengi can be very focused, especially when nobody bothers to talk to them, Rom reminds us. So, those were fun ones. A lot of food-related things. The Trekkian nomenclature, or whatever we want to call it right now, when something is a Alcurian beetle or a Talaxian frog. We had Tellurian mint truffles, Rudelian brain fever, and Bajoran spiny basil that Keiko called basil, by the way.
I don't remember that part. I don't remember that one. I remember the first two, the chocolates and the brain thing. But brain the basil fever one, it must have went by me.
When Bashir walks in and hands it to her as a sorry gift. She goes, Bajoran spiny basil. She's like, oh, that's nice or whatever.
Yeah, and speaking of Bashir, he was kind of hilarious in this one. There were 2 lines that they were throwaways, but if you really listen to what he's saying, they were ridiculous. It was ridiculous for him to say. It was hilarious for me in that sort of way. And it was one of them is the incident where you're talking about when he hands her the basil, the Bajoran basil. He says to her something like, well, I have to leave because, I left the patient on the operating table. And I'm like, who the hell? What kind of doctor are you leaving?
Which is clearly untrue. It's a little white lie, kind of like when he said, I've got to go operate on somebody. Who are you operating on? I'll find somebody.
I'll find someone, right. So I thought that was a nice little funny joke, a throwaway. He didn't really emphasize it that hard, but it was a throwaway. But I love the way he said it. I left the patient on the operating table. Like, what kind of doctor does that? And the other line that he had in this episode, which I thought was kind of, it kind of showed me the level of friendship that he has with O'Brien. And that's when they're kind of arguing over the bonsais, right? You destroyed my wife's bonsais by watering them. They don't take water. You watered them, and that's what's destroyed them. Bashir, going back and forth with his buddy, says, hey, man, just say you're sorry and take full responsibility.
Just go ahead and take one for the team, man.
Yeah, man. Don't throw me under the bus. And then they cut right from there to O'Brien saying, "Yeah, Julian's fault. He did
Yeah,
all."
boy, he's really sorry.
He's really sorry. He's an idiot. You know how idiots
Yeah.
are. So it's the perfect. That's how two buddies would go back and forth, right? Come on, man, don't throw me under the bus. Just take full responsibility, and deal with it. And then, of course, he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. I'm gonna throw you under the bus. I don't want to catch that heat." So I like that also. I thought it was just clever writing between two friends. Another small little thing that shows how close they are.
And I do want to talk about, and I'm sure you do too, about the whole storyline with Rom as well. But before we get to that, just a few more things with Keiko. One was, I thought it was very funny when she goes in and I think he's cut his hand, and we kind of touched on that. But her line was, she goes, "Get a hold of yourself." I don't know why that cracked me up, but she's just like, "Come on, man, grow up, dude. Calm down. Get your ass back out there." That was great. I also thought it was kind of funny that when O'Brien and the rest of the team are up at 3 a.m. Because there's a saboteur, we don't think anything of it, but Molly and Keiko called them also at 3 a.m. And I thought it was a little peculiar that a child is calling at 3 a.m. and she's just brushing her hair and everything's cool. I was like, did we forget that it's 3 a.m.? You guys? Oh, and speaking of which, you want to hit us with your nitpick?
No, I do. And I want to add to the 3 a.m. thing. The other thing I thought was interesting was there was a lot of people in up at that time. So when she was showing him the anomaly and this and that, you would think it'd be down to a bare bones crew, but there was a few people walking around in the background. I thought a little bit more activity than I would expect at 3 a.m. on the station, right?
Here's something I hadn't thought of real quick. They have 26-hour days, right? Yet they mentioned 3 a.m. Does that mean they have a 13 o'clock? They must have a 13 o'clock. Otherwise, you can't have, because you can't have a 3 a.m. on a 26-hour day unless there is a 13 o'clock. It's 13 a.m. and it's 13 p.m. That's their midnight and that's their noon.
Huh.
Let's see.
I had no idea. 26-hour day. You just schooled me on that.
Yeah, and in some of the lines they'll say, keep resting, rest for 52 hours. That's doctor says rest for, lay down for 52 hours, meaning 2 days. But yeah, they have a 26-hour day on Deep Space Nine. But anyway, that's really interesting. So when they said 3 a.m., they have now committed to needing a 13 o'clock officially. Anyway.
Nice. I got to get me one of them 26-hour watches.
No, there should be, and the circle should be a Deep Space Nine thing. You know what I mean? Like it should be like a station, like what you draw on your doodles. There should be a watch that's like the station, and it's 13 hours around.
26 hours. Yeah. So yeah, I like that one. I like that 13-hour clock. So yeah, my nitpick was a little bit different, and here it is. So there was a moment where O'Brien was actually calculating with the computer how long it would take to stun and phase his wife, right? Stunning him would take 0.9 seconds.
I think I know where you're going with this, and I totally agree. Please continue.
Yes. Using the gas was 1.4 seconds. Trying to use a containment field was 2 seconds.
Right.
And all he was trying to do, and he was trying to figure out a way to get it done to a split second, because he knew that this Pah-Wraith or whatever was inhabiting her, had a split second to kill his wife if it needed. So
phaser at 0.9 seconds was too long to risk it.
Right.
But
his wife is jumped off of the railing of the second floor of the promenade and must have been unconscious. Must have been unconscious during that time, which gives you the perfect opportunity to do that stasis field or whatever it is that you want to do to to contain this person or this entity, right? So I thought I'm like, if my wife's knocked out right there on the floor, I'm thinking, perfect, Captain, putting her in a holding suite or something, or like, transport her to one of those holding suites.
There's your chance.
There's your chance, or
yeah,
and put her in a medically induced coma, Bashir. Medically induce her into a coma, keep her knocked out while we figure out what we're about to do.
Right, and the other thing on top of that was at the end when he zaps her in the runabout. That was longer than 0.9 seconds. That was like 5 to 8 seconds. And she's going like that. I was like, 1, 2. My math isn't so good, but so I got kind of lost there.
2, 3, 4. Freddy's at your door. Yeah, she was frying there for a minute. Your reenactment of it was almost as good as the original.
I do always try to put myself in the position of the actor, where it's like a director saying, "Okay, now act like you're being electrocuted," and you're like,
"Yeah."
And they're like, "No, but really give it your all." Like, and you probably gotta feel really, you feel really self-conscious, being like, like, because I've had to do things like that in the past, and I felt like no matter what I did, it looked like a parody. Like it felt like a parody when I'm doing it. You know what I mean? And I can only imagine all the times you guys get hit by phasers or you get zapped by, electricity. You have to, and you're like, are you sure this looks okay? It feels so weird right now.
Yes. And I had this similar thing when I was possessed in the promenade, and I was, I had the red eye contacts in, and it was, supposed to be possessed. And they were like, you're getting shocked with electricity, or you're getting, and you're really out there as an actor, because without the special effects and without the right camera, recipe cooking on top of that, it can come out looking really bad, and you can come out looking super corny, because if the special effects don't mix in right and the camera work doesn't mix in right, you're standing there like,
these guys got to have your back. You're like, all right, I'm trusting you guys.
Yeah.
I'm trusting you.
Yeah, right. And so, yes, it is difficult to go full hard on stuff like that, being electrocuted or dying or finding some type of way, where it's just the visual effect that's going to be added to the scene, right? But it worked for me. It worked for me. It just, for me, the only thing that I felt a little bit difficult was how they were able to make this electrical shock thing hit exactly inside of her. There was no real explanation on any of that for me. How that, he was able to intercept it with her inside of the runabout. But they were selling that story, and they had to put an end and nice bow tie wrap on it at the end eventually. Right. So that's the way they chose. But I think ultimately they just wanted to tell this story about Keiko not being Keiko. I think that's less about the Pah-Wraiths, less about the founders or the prophets that are inside of the wormhole. I think it's more just about how can we tell a really good Keiko O'Brien story and fill in this time. Now, you were going to talk about the NAMs. Who I picked up on Shakar. Who's the other NAMs that you have?
Lita as well. So there was Shakar and there was Lita, when Rom also dropped a future hint that they will be getting romantic, because he said that Lita is always telling him about Bajoran, legends. And the third one was also a non-naming appearance mention when Keiko mentions the baby, meaning Kirayoshi, their baby. So that was, they didn't say the name, but they did mention the baby. They said the baby, and I think maybe it was O'Brien. He said what's her name, Molly. He said Molly and the baby should stay with the Joneses or whatever like that. So those were the three I caught.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I remember that.
So what did you think of Rom's storyline? Because we kind of touched on it a couple times here, but he got a lot of growth just in this one episode. Like he had a full arc that now he's part of the day shift, or no, he's part of the swing shift. Totally different. And he's already made that step forward that earlier in the episode he was saying he hoped for.
Yeah, and we saw some growth in him as well, you know, because once again, Quark is still doubting his family member, right? Yeah. He doubts Nog. He's doubting Rom. When he kind of was encouraging Rom a little bit the last time when Rom was saying he was going to leave and, you know, working at the bar wasn't what he wants to do. I felt like at the end they came to an understanding like, okay, you know, I support you if that's what you want to do. But then it cuts right back to Quark, like you're wasting your time. They're putting you on waste extraction duty. You're getting flunked. Nobody cares about you. And see, I told you that you were going to end up being a loser or unsuccessful in that venture. So you need to come back here and do what you're supposed to do, which is wipe my tables and get, you know, take care of my customers. So there was a little bit of that, and you see him start off on that level, but then he combats that right away with standing up for himself and having his own identity by saying, no, you know what, I'm going to try the eggs. I'm not eating the slug liver or whatever it is that I normally have. I'm gonna branch out here and do what we engineers do. You know, some bacon and eggs
and rock the Gino.
So there's rock the Gino, and so we see him. Again, just stepping out there and carving out who Rom is, finding his way, finding himself, and having this growth within this episode, you know, starting from the bottom and now working his way up to being almost essentially the chief's right hand. I like that part of this story as well. The fact that Rom's intuition, Rom's intelligence was called upon in this moment to kind of being the key to uncovering what all of this is all really about, because Rom is that smart that he knows that if you ask me to do this and recalibrate this and you ask me to program this, then that means we're obviously supposed to be doing this. And even Chief O'Brien couldn't figure that out, who's, you know, has more experience in him and knows the system in and out. Even he couldn't figure out what the effects of doing all of these things that he was being tasked to do would be. So I like the fact that Rom was the secret sauce and the ingredient to that being uncovered.
He was the secret sauce. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
He was a secret sauce. And why? Why? Because he's perceptive, because he's intelligent, and because he's a good listener.
Focused.
And being a good being a good listener / learner allowed him to pick up that information from Lita, retain it, right? And be able to understand even further things. He mentioned because the Cosmoron or something, I think he was talking about the Cosmoron. Mm-hmm. And then he actually broke down the linguistics of the word, coming from the Bajoran word meaning banished, and coming, right? So he actually took the phonetics of the word, broke it down in the way a dictionary breaks down words, and gives you the Latin or the Greek or the French or whatever it is, the origin of the word. And he did that in a Star Trek word. He did that in a culture that he's not even familiar with, right? That's not even his language. He's doing it with somebody else. So for him to be able to accomplish that and do that, that just showed me the level of intelligence he had, and that he was deserving of that promotion.
And it's good writing to add things like that in there so that we go, wow, this guy, you know, it's not just like a lucky strike or something that he found that he happens to be good at. It's like, okay, this guy is actually a lot smarter than we give him credit for based on what we've seen in the past. But now we're seeing new information come to light that shows that, you know, he's basically just saying, hey, I'm a beta. You know, I like to just kind of let sleeping dogs lie, and I'm happy to be the guy that pretends to be dumb, but I'm really not dumb, you know. And then we find out that he's actually very intelligent and he's very good at a lot of things, especially, you know, scientific things or engineering type things or calculating. So yeah, it's great growth for him, and it really is, again, more expansion to the family. Now we've got Jake Sisko becoming a writer. We have Nog, you know, going into Starfleet. We have Lita becoming more of a presence. We have Rom becoming part of the actual crew, you know, and that's on top of already adding the Defiant, bumping up Sisko from commander to captain, and adding Worf. Now the whole Deep Space Nine world and universe just keeps growing. You know, it's really cool.
Yeah, and I want to highlight a couple of moments that I like here in this episode. One of them was where Rom says to O'Brien's like, hey, I still need you to kind of play the role and keep your mouth shut because nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And Rom gives the best answer he could give. He's like, don't worry, Quark's my brother. Basically, you know how many times I've been asked to
yeah, I'm a pro.
You know how much dirt I got floating around my head and how many people have been shorted and how much stuff I've kept my mouth shut on. If I were to write a book about all of this stuff, all of you guys would be surprised about how much stuff's really going on here. So that's the first part I like. The other thing that I liked was Captain Sisko. There was a very small moment. It's really small, but they were in the they had just figured out that there was something wrong. Somebody's playing with the programs, and O'Brien knows it's him, but he's being quiet. And Sisko is like, do you think do you suspect anyone, Chief? And he's like, yes. And Sisko says, yes, what? And the way he says, yes, what? It's like how your dad says it to you when you're not giving a good enough answer,
yeah.
And it's like, yes, what? Like, keep going. Don't hit me with just the yes. That's not good enough in this situation. So yeah, I like those moments. Yeah, it's good performance. Actually, it's really good emphasis on those lines. I mean, yes, what is 2 words, but it's the way Sisko says it in a way with such authority that, once again, I am convinced that he's the captain and that he's the guy who's in charge of what's going on here, because he's able to take that kind of a stance and that tone in his voice.
Mm-hmm. We only have a minute left. So
yeah,
a couple things before we go.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
I saved this for the end.
Yeah.
Are you ready? I'm ready now. Number 7, whatever. Here we go. If Rom is bacon intolerant, he's also probably sausage intolerant.
Okay.
He said bacon doesn't agree with him, but then the next day he's like, "Oh, bacon doesn't agree with me. I'm going to have some sausage." And lastly, Jake Sisko guesses
up on that too.
The IMDb score.
Oh, I'm going to say like a 7.5 on this.
Very good. 7.3.
7.6.
Yeah, 7.3 is what it got on IMDb. Very good. Very good. So everybody at home, stick around. We've got the free-for-all next with the coolest bunch of folks in the history of the world and the quadrant. And also very special thanks to Carmen, aka Skillet, PJ Tomas, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri. I said Missouri instead of Missouri. Yes. Bill Victor Arucan.
Arucan.
Yvette Blackmon, Homer Frizzell, Eve England out in Wales, and Marie Segal, Titus Mohler, Tim Baum, and Dr. Sue V. Gruner. Here we go. Free for all is next. We'll see you on the other side on the 7th Rule.
Oh,
that's me.
Wow. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule. This is the free-for-all. We are joined by Eve England out in Wales, TJ Jackson-Bey in Missouri, Mr. Scott Jensen, Malissa Longo floating around Deep Space Nine, and Dr. Marie Segal. We all had a pretty good laugh at the recording thing. We don't know.
The computer?
Yeah, we don't know if we're going to hear the computer on the recording or not. This is all just, we'll see what happens.
Fun.
So cool.
And we have
this. You also consent.
And we have no idea. We have no idea how this happened. It just started today. Anyway, how you guys doing?
Love that.
Good.
It's like having a butler.
Having a butler.
It's like an English accent. Super lovely.
It's like
The
Jarvis.
housekeeper.
When you say butler, I can only think of Jeffrey from Fresh Prince.
Oh
Oh
my god, I wish.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Belvedere.
Speaking of, really fast, have you tried to Google Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Because if you do, there's like a license plate next to the Google bar that comes up, and if you click it, your whole browser goes into like 90s font, and it has the lyrics going across the screen, and then when you reverse it to click it back, Will Smith like jumps across your screen. It's so cute. I love
Throwing
it.
jazz out of the house.
Yeah.
Still throwing jazz out.
It's super fun.
Okay, so you
I've
click on
seen
the
that,
license
actually.
plate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's go to the Rock's reaction.
I love fucking Marie
that's
Segal.
cool.
Look at that. You're straight back in 96 now, yeah. And then you flip it back out.
Oh, wow. That is cool.
It's my favorite one since the Wizard of Oz Google.
Oh, yeah.
Moving with your auntie and uncle to Bel Air. That's really
No,
cool,
I like when I
man.
keep my Google that way permanently.
That's sweet.
Ryan's like, shut up. You told me about this like 4 days ago.
Oh no, I'm doing it right now. Okay.
Yeah, it goes old school with it.
And then how do you switch back?
I'm not telling you.
Well, you said you see the Fresh Prince.
That's your
It's
punishment.
the same thing. No, your punishment or your reward.
What the?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh. Whoa.
Threw jazz out of the front of
It
the
threw jazz out of their
Oh my god.
Oh, it's my favorite part of those episodes.
Wow. That's
What,
pretty
Melissa?
cool.
Oh, there
How
she
do you
goes.
do it?
You
press the
Google-
license plate again.
Yeah, Google
wait,
Fresh
undo
Prince
it
of
or do
Bel
it?
Air, and then
Again?
Yeah.
No. Just click the. You said undo it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just click the license plate again.
But I only see it once.
no, click the X
Oh.
on the top right. So everybody at home, we're very sorry. We're
Great.
probably just going to clip all this out.
Flash, you're welcome.
Thanks, Anne Marie.
Oh man,
It's Anne Marie's fault, everybody.
Got it.
You can all thank me.
So let's start with TJ, who has, I think, something. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, TJ.
happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is. Celebration.
The birthday llama.
His name
Oh
is
my
Jeffrey.
gosh.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, there we go. It's got these
I love
sunshades
it.
on. That's my buddy right there.
Nice.
Oh.
And someone made me caramel cake.
Whoa.
Yeah. Best birthday.
Wow.
That went with it too.
Oh my gosh, I love this
Terrible.
continuity.
Hey.
You already said that was your favorite one months ago.
Yes.
Yep.
Now we
Yes.
know it was
So
true.
someone was nice enough to ask me, what kind of cake do you want? And I said caramel. And she's like, okay, never done that before. I'm going to give it a shot. She done
Wow.
good.
Oh my
Yeah, it
gosh,
turned
that's
out well, huh?
amazing.
She done
Can
great.
we see what it
Yeah,
looks like? What it's supposed to look like?
absolutely.
'Cause I've never
If
had
I can,
caramel cake. I've never
Like,
seen it,
make
really.
it not fall off the plate. There we go.
Yum.
That
Oh,
looks
nice.
so good.
So-
And that top layer is that caramel frosting? Is that what that is?
Right.
I love this.
That looks good to me.
Looks good. So,
Yeah.
TJ, any thoughts on this episode? Since you're the birthday boy, you get to start off. Yeah,
that's it. All right. Well, it was a good one for Rosalind Chow. I enjoyed watching her get to stretch her legs a little bit and push Miles around. And I also enjoyed watching Rom in this episode with the secret mission. Somebody's still on the Fresh Prince.
My bad.
With the secret mission and not talking to Odo, and then finally realizing that they really don't know about this. Like, what are we doing, Chief? But I also appreciate that he was willing to, stick with the Chief and still, help him and still keep things under wraps while he needed that to be the case. Because that shows, a level of, personal loyalty. Like, he could have kind of screwed that whole thing up if he had opened his mouth. So kudos Rom for, being the guy that was there when was needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Big ups to Rom. Also want to point out that Eve England and Anne-Marie Segal are twinsies today.
Yes.
Yay!
Look at that. Look at the Ferengi eyes.
Both wearing the Ferengi eyes. You can get that shirt at our online store. That is teespring.com/the7th-rule. That is also in the description box below. Click on that. You can pick any kind of amazing, awesome shirt. Also in the description box below is walking art made by Melissa. It looks like Melissa might be wearing something from her own shop right now to show off too.
Love that shirt.
Oh, walking art made by Melissa. There it is.
There it is. Very nice.
So, who else has some thoughts on this episode? There's a lot to cover on this one.
And a discount at the Teespring store with Patreon.
If you become a patron of the 7th Rule, you also get a discount on the Teespring store. Thanks for reminding us, Anne-Marie, every single time I forget.
You can do that for as little as $1 American dollar, I believe.
Yes, and $5 gets you access to all the posts a month early before they're all full episodes on YouTube.
So many perks. You should check it out.
And for the low price of, I think, $30, round tables monthly with Cirroc himself. Okay, commercial over. Now back to you, Ryan.
This is great. I was watching Cirroc. We're both just hanging out going, wow, this is great. We don't even have to say anything. We could just hang out.
Let's get the kick back, man. Yeah.
You guys are pros.
I want to say something about Keiko when she started bossing O'Brien around saying, you ain't sleeping on the couch. You're going to get in the bed.
Oh, my God. I love it.
I was like, whoa.
Staying PG, but I'm just going to say this and leave it alone. That the Chief missed an opportunity.
Or
space demon
because they have that opportunity all the time, because in the beginning he thought Keiko was role playing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
he was into it at first.
Like
yeah, but remember this, guys. She also said that Keiko,
it was tiresome. Yeah.
Does remember everything and is aware of everything. So maybe an opportunity missed for that day.
Yeah.
But then tomorrow.
Now that brings up a great question. Is that cheating? Would that be cheating?
I think
it's weird. I think so.
I think only the ladies can answer this one. Is that cheating, Eve?
I think it's just weird.
Yeah.
If you have to ask if it's cheating, then you just might as well just.
I'll give you that one, Scott.
You gotta ask and just dodge.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Not a daytime television show.
It brings up the Quantum Leap problem too, because that was a big deal in Quantum Leap.
Right.
Oh,
every episode, basically.
Interesting.
Right.
Melissa, what do you think? Is that cheating or nah?
I think it's hard to say. I mean, it's still Keiko, but it's not Keiko. So, but he knows it's not Keiko. So then it kind of would.
Right. Right.
Yeah, not to bring a downer on things, but it also seems, at the very least, extremely inappropriate, being that Keiko is not a willing participant in this. So inappropriate is the nicest word I can use for this.
Ryan, you're such a gentleman.
I mean, I'm just thinking about it realistically. I'm just thinking about it, realistically here. Anyway,
except for a caveat now.
Okay.
If this version of Keiko actually insisted that it happened, otherwise the real Keiko's life is in jeopardy, then he would actually technically be forced to do it to save Keiko. So
it's true.
Well, yeah,
and these are the kinds of mental gymnastics that men do.
I think they call that a Sophie's choice.
Yeah, just get on a
He's like,
shuttlecraft and do it.
baby, I'm sorry. I was willing to do anything to keep you alive.
I was saving your life.
But
Space demon.
at that point, Keiko is still aware of this dilemma. So if I'm fully aware of this dilemma, I mean, it's
right.
I
And
wonder
Keiko
if
is
she came out of
victims
that. If she
everywhere.
actually was pissed about the flowers.
Yeah.
Those flowers are going to come up at a later date.
yeah,
It's gonna pop back up.
bonsai trees. Yeah.
Continuity.
Yeah.
I also really wanted to see, like, at the very end, for them to acknowledge that the exact same thing had happened, like, with role reversal on Next Generation, where O'Brien had been possessed and was super mean to Keiko. I felt like there should have been, like, just a one-liner about that. Because what are the chances it happens to two people in the same
That is
marriage?
a great
If their last name is O'Brien, it's definitely a high.
They must suffer.
So, like, actually,
this happened before. This happened before.
Yeah,
It's
but
the
like
other way around.
and it was like basically the same thing. Like, because they're married, it was really, it was really ripe to like make the other one feel really weird and uncomfortable, and in like even more danger.
Well,
And
tell us
Molly
about
was
this
there.
episode. You said there were the three characters, right? It was O'Brien, Troy,
Power play.
and
Data,
and was it?
Data.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really make that much sense. I think it's in
possessing
season
Andrew.
5, and like these like 3 people claim to be like old Federation people, but actually they're just aliens, and they want to go to the polar region of some planet, and they're trying to like take the ship over so that they can get there. And they're really nasty, and kind of, at least one of them is very like sadistic in a way that this Pah-Wraith wasn't. So it makes it like a little bit creepier even, but it was exactly the same kind of thing. So I'm just like, what are the odds? And I think at the end, they even kind of were like, wow, it would be so hard to know what would happen. Like, either they say it or they like insinuate, like, it'd be so hard to know like how it would be if it happened to the other one of us. I'm like, it did happen to the other one of you.
They've had a lot of weird, because remember when Keiko got turned into a little girl again?
Oh yeah, and Rascals.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
That was they've had a lot of trauma, but this one I was
the little
just
girl
like,
was like, Miles Edward O'Brien, I am still your wife.
so creepy. So
Shuttlecraft.
Miles.
And he's
Still
like,
bait
but you're
you.
9
I'm
years
out.
old.
Yeah. And he
Shuttle
did such a
bait.
good job of being like, this is creepy.
Wow. That was on Next Generation, huh?
Yeah.
And there was a TOS episode about
know.
aliens possessing or they asked to possess the crew, didn't they, to rebuild their society in TOS? Remember, I think it was season 3.
Anyone?
Because they were in some kind of like cryo sleep, and all that was left was their consciousness downloaded in the computer. And they wanted to use Spock, Bones, and Kirk to rebuild their society. And
Yeah, let me just use your top 3 guys.
Yeah, let's just use the main people
Like,
in charge
that's
of the
not
entire
suspicious
ship.
at all. Yeah.
To rebuild their entire planet. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
just
feel like I
started
remember
my
that too,
TOS
so.
watch.
Oh man.
Did they do something like that in Voyager too?
I think so.
I was thinking about the Organians, but I don't think that's what you meant.
The synthetic people, when there were the copies of all of them, it felt like that too.
Oh yeah, from the Hell
When
Planet.
Harry and Tom were going down to the Hell Planet, and you didn't know who
That
was what.
episode,
episode's
the
sad.
where they got off the planet and thought they were the real crew.
Oh, it's so
Makes me
sad.
It is melting the whole
know. Don't even talk about it. My mascara's gonna run. So depressing.
Well, we've gone off on quite a tangent.
Okay, yeah, tangent. Okay.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
For you
O'Brien
guys.
must suffer.
What is the official breakfast food for the 7th rule ship?
Great question.
For which shift?
The 7th rule ship.
I don't know, but we should keep the pancakes for sure.
Pancakes, I'm definitely good
for pancakes. Yeah,
I'm good with that. I'm good with pancakes.
Pancakes.
What do you think, Eve?
I do like pancakes, but I do like eggy bread as well.
Eggy bread.
Eggy bread.
What's that?
I think it's French bread.
French toast. Yeah, French toast.
Oh,
eggy
hell
bread.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I'm gonna start calling it that. That's so fun.
Eggy bread.
That's way better.
I'm good with the French toast.
We're gonna have to do a breakfast at some point when we're all in the same place, or many of us are, or most of us are. All
Star
of us
Trek
are.
Las Vegas.
Maybe
Melissa's going to be there. Eve's going to be there. Cirroc and I are going to be there.
Oh my gosh.
So is this happening in 21 or 22?
21.
Like 90 days or something.
Oh, wow.
80 days.
T-minus 90 days.
Yeah, there's a countdown on the website.
So what do you guys think? Is it pancakes or French toast or eggy bread or all three?
We'll have all three. It's nice to have a mix.
Yeah, might as well have all three of them.
Yeah.
Carb it up.
Bring some scrambled eggs and hash browns.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I like hash browns.
We can have a breakfast.
You can do tater browns if you want, but
there's this great bagel shop in New Jersey that cuts the top of the everything bagel off really thinly and then dips it in egg and makes like a bagel French toast.
Oh, cool.
It's so good.
You guys have much better breakfast than we have. I do love going to America just to have breakfast. It's my favorite meal.
Yes, thank you for that. We appreciate that.
Yes,
that's what we
let's put that tab on the BBC website.
American breakfast.
On behalf of American breakfast, we'd like to thank you for that. You know, it's funny because when I travel, that's one of the things that I miss the most about being back here home is the breakfast as a cuisine. Like they don't do that in Africa or any other places. It's not like a big thing. Like even in Europe, a lot of the breakfasts are croissants or some kind of bread thing like that. Yeah. But they don't do the whole sit down bacon, eggs, and toast with pancakes, and it's not a big thing.
What's nice though is there's definitely more places here now that do the American brunches, and so we have a lot more options for pancakes and hash browns and stuff like that now than we ever used to, than just your bog standard, fry up. But so that's it's really good because I agree. It's definitely because you can just have that and then you just don't need to eat for the rest of the day. It's amazing.
You don't need to, but
in Ethiopia.
And
then we can
dinner.
I think we can all agree that it's better than the Ferengi breakfast. Sorry, Cirroc, I didn't mean to cut you
nobody wants with slug liver or what is it?
Pureed beetle or something.
Maybe some snail juice.
Just lifts up a brick.
Cirroc, what's the Ethiopian breakfast of choice?
Ethiopian breakfast, we make this thing called fırfır. And fırfır is essentially a dried up version of the leftovers of the dinner. So they just take whatever, because they make this bread called injera in Ethiopia, and that's the staple of the country. Everybody eats injera like everybody in China eats rice. Injera is the base food, and it's the bread that is that they use to eat all the other stuff. And that bread, after you use it as a plate, so it's funny because you actually use it as a plate. You put the food on top of the injera, the bread, and then you use the injera to eat. So it's the plate and it's the thing you use to eat. But when you're done eating, the bottom level of that has all the juices of whatever was on top of it kind of soaked in. Well, they take that and dry it out. And they make this thing called fırfır from that. So essentially it is the leftovers of dinner is breakfast. And so every time I go to Ethiopia, they're like, "Hey, you want some furfur?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to eat dinner. Last night's dinner for breakfast."
And it's someone else's leftovers too, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I want to eat some fresh, like some breakfast food. So
I love eating leftovers for breakfast. So good.
Yeah, it depends on what it is and what time you wake up. But for the most part, it's a really heavy food, and everybody in Ethiopia is used to eating furfur, but not me. I can't do it. I have to have like a breakfast food, And so even if it's a slice of toast with some jelly on it, some jam, that's good enough for me. Doesn't have to be bacon, eggs, and hash brown and everything. I just need something that reminds me of a breakfast food, right? As opposed to a lunch or dinner type food. So that's one of the things I miss when I travel. That and cheeseburgers, like hamburgers and stuff, because you don't get really good cheeseburgers either out there. So you didn't used to, but just like Eve is saying, a lot of people have been traveling of the world and they're bringing back different cuisine and different kinds of traditional foods to different places. So now you go to Ethiopia, you can find a really good burger now. Americanized burger with fries, and my mom tells me how good those burgers are. She's like, the burgers there are better than here now. So you'll be surprised how these kinds of things are spreading and culturally, because I'm not the only one who misses a cheeseburger when they're in Ethiopia. So some other person decided, hey, why don't we just make our own cheeseburgers? So you're getting that kind of thing happening. But there was a time when you couldn't find breakfast foods in places that were really modern, like visiting Germany, and I want to eat a breakfast thing, and they're like, "Oh, well, we don't really do breakfast like that, but you can have a bagel or something, or this kind of
what
a
thing." Deal.
Here's some muesli.
Yeah, but not the full out, waffles and all that stuff. But it's starting to spread.
You know what a good place for breakfast was that I've seen was Catalan. If you've ever been to the northeastern part of Spain or the southeastern part of France, around Barcelona, Catalan has really good breakfast. It's usually like toasts and pastries, or like pizza kind of things with tomatoes, with cheeses, with eggs, olives. It's making my mouth water a little bit, but like when I was there, like I looked forward to the breakfast actually. Actually check this out.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like, and like it's usually like sliced hams and things like that, So that's kind of what they do for their breakfasts, and it's pretty good, man. It's not bad.
So good.
A lot of like pizzas and tomato kind of stuff and prosciutto.
Yeah, like a bruschettas and those kinds of things.
Anyway,
which I should.
We always end up talking about food.
I know. Now I'm so hungry.
Yeah, no hesitation.
Any final thoughts on this episode before we wrap this up? By the way, guys, Scott, we haven't really heard from you too much.
Yeah, is this the first time we heard of the Pah-Wraiths at all?
Oh, I have a fun fact that actually Robert Hewitt Wolf meant for them to be in season 1, but then that scene got deleted. So actually, they're never mentioned on screen until now.
So it is the first.
And it was actually supposed. It actually, I think maybe it was supposed to. I think Eve has the companion. I don't. Like, wasn't it? O'Brien who was supposed to be.
Got it right here.
And then they flipped it and added the Pah-Wraith. Then they decided to add the Pah-Wraith because it already had been sort of established.
Kind of, just unnamed spirit demons.
So one thing I didn't realize. Okay, so when they're touching the guy, when there's like caressing somebody's ear or whatever, and they're testing their paw, it's spelled P-A-G-H, right?
Yes. Yes.
But the Pah-Wraiths, I assume, would be P-A-G-H.
Oh,
but it's
I know.
not.
I thought of that.
No.
I know
it's P-A-H.
Yeah, there's a piece in the companion that talks about the conversations the writers had, and there was something, and I can't remember exactly what it says, but it was the argument for it. I can't remember whether they changed it and it was originally a mistake, but they said it was because it was much more that the language had evolved, and that the original spelling of one or the other was much more old than the other, and that was the rationale. So it was a sort of evolution of language.
Oh my gosh!
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah,
that is so cool.
So that's kind of like the in-universe explanation for a clerical error. Or
that just made my month.
That's so
I
cool.
love that.
That's all you need, yeah.
I can't remember if it was an actual error, but there was some dispute as to how the spelling should have been, and that was the rationale that they decided.
I just call them what they are in Bajoran, Costamogen.
Well, they changed that as well. Apparently, that was used again, and they changed it as something to do with somebody didn't like the first. And I can't remember if this is the first time they used that or whether it's later on. It's different. I have to find it. There's definitely something. Oh, hang on. Yeah, so it was Cosmoran. Was that in this one? I think, and then
Costasan or something like that. Yeah.
Then they said then it becomes Cost Amojan later on by the Reckoning. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting about PAHPG.
I thought it was neat that Ron was the expert
Bajoran
in
languages.
too.
Oh, I know.
That's right.
That's so cute. Yeah.
It's so cute. You can just like imagine him and Lita hanging out for hours, just chit chatting. Rom isn't just there for sex. I love it.
It's a good thing too, because you probably wouldn't get it.
Never gonna get it.
There it is. Now it's time for breakdown. What were you saying, Eve?
I was just gonna say one thing that just tickles me when we're watching it is when O'Brien is in the conduits talking about all these different ways that he can knock out Keiko. I was like, shouldn't there be some sort of alarm there to sort of say, someone needs to go check on O'Brien because he's asking all these reasons how quickly he can knock his wife out.
Can I shoot her? Let's see.
It would be a useful thing.
Looking for non-lethal ways to do it.
Still, it's a bit weird though, isn't it?
That's a great point.
Sort of alarm.
Yeah, it is.
That's
somewhere. Yeah,
flag a counselor or something like this guy's going nuts.
Yeah.
There was another thing that I thought was interesting. When they were explaining the Pah-Wraiths, they gave a whole backstory about them being like the fallen angels from the Celestial Temple, and I thought that's a pretty parallel to the biblical narrative of the fallen angels and how they've used the biblical story. So I thought that was
cast out of heaven.
Yeah, right. It was clever of them to kind of take that and then tweak it a little bit for the Bajoran religion.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that actually, Cirroc. When I saw that, I made a note saying, "Oh, I bet Cirroc will have some cool things to say about that." And I totally forgot, like everything else. But there definitely
that reminds
some
me,
parallels.
Lucifer's about to come back on Netflix.
What is
show? Lucifer.
Oh,
right.
I love that one.
Wasn't it a choice for Lucifer and not so much a choice for Pah-Wraiths?
I have no idea.
They cast. I feel like it was so similar.
It was almost
similar. Like they were trying to overtake.
It says they had
the real prophets,
different ideologies, and the way that they, I guess, wanted to interact with the Bajorans, and also
ideological differences,
lead them one way or another.
Yeah, because it gets into some stuff that we could say now to be a little spoily for Cirroc, but later on there's some more stuff about who's the right and who's the wrong. And
it was interesting that it was Jake who was asking about meeting them, and
he wanted to go to the fire cave.
Yeah, Jake is really so hip to Bajoran culture. I love it.
I love how there was so much enthusiasm in that scene. Like, come on, take me with you. I want to go. Let's go. I want to see him. It's so neat.
But the fire caves sound amazing. I mean, if you were sort of a kid, you'd want to go to the fire caves.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'd want to go to the fire caves. It sounds cool.
Like, how are there not video games based on this? Like, it just seems like such a good thing to capitalize on.
Well, everybody in the comments below, let us know if you've been to the fire caves or if you'd like to go. What were you saying, Cirroc?
This time of year. Yeah.
No, I was thinking about the tradition of having a candle on a cake and blowing it out. And how long that has been going on, and they kind of extended it, obviously 400 years into the future in this scene with O'Brien, make a wish and blow out a candle. I just wondered where the origin of making a wish and blowing out a candle comes from. That was kind of interesting to me that they kept that tradition.
I also think it's interesting that the one line Cirroc has memorized was a Jake Sisko line there. He's like, he grabs him on the shoulder.
Yeah,
make a wish
all this time. Yeah,
yeah, right.
But that's true. You guys, anybody know where that comes from?
But now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll have to find out next time.
It comes from Marie Antoinette when she said, "Let there be cake." They said, "Oh yeah, make a wish."
We're about to blow you out.
We're about to take care of you. This will be the last time you
to knock her lights out, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we better run. But everybody, let us know in the comment section below if you have a theory. TJ made a wish as well, hopefully, and hopefully it will come true. Happy birthday to him. And very special thanks, of course, to Malissa, Eve, Anne-Marie, TJ, and Scott. And of course, Cirroc, and the coolest man in the history of men, Aron Eisenberg. Thank you all very much for joining us. We'll see you again real soon. TJ is going to keep bringing the llama until it's all like out of air and like we'll see you next time. Thank you all very much, and always remember the 7th rule.